Yo, what up, guys? This is your boy Legendary here, and today, people, we're going to be talking about what you guys can see in the title. We're going to be talking about Link Summoning, we're going to be talking about Master Rule 4, and we're going to be talking about the future of our channel in terms of like how duels are going to go regarding Master Rule 4. So, in 2020, we will be finally introducing Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrain's characters on the channel, and we're going to be having duels between them. We already have some duels written down and certain matchups and all that done, and we're already almost done finishing a few of the decks, so we're doing really well. So it's coming really soon, so just be patient, guys. But we have to discuss the elephant in the room, the big problem in the room, and that's Master Rule 4. If you guys don't know what Master Rule 4 is, Master Rule 4 is the current rules that we play by in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, because when Link Monsters were created, it came with a new set of rules, and just everything kind of changed for Yu-Gi-Oh! And the way the game is played. So now, because of Link Monsters, things are kind of like messed up, mainly because of Master Rule 4, but Link Monsters are connected to that, I guess, too. So essentially, for Master Rule 4, the rules are there are two new zones on the field that are above the monster zones. There's two new zones. They're both extra monster zones. One is for you, one is for your opponent. And essentially, this extra monster zone is so you can summon monsters from your extra deck. That means fusions, synchros, Xyz, and pendulum monsters. The pendulum monsters that are face up. So this extra monster zone is just for those monsters only. That means all your main monster zones, the normal zones that we're used to playing in, none of those zones you can summon any of those other summoning mechanics on those zones. It can only be on that one zone, which means you can only it's basically like giving all the other summoning mechanics a hard once per turn. In a sense, it's not really. You can still Xyz, pendulum fusion as much as you want during the turn, but you can only have one on the field at a time. So if you do fusion summon, Xyz, or pendulum summon, whatever on the field, you have to remove that monster that's in the extra monster zone out of the field first. And then that zone has to be cleared off so that you can summon a new one from the extra deck on that zone. So it's very tricky, it's very annoying, and essentially what that means is all other older decks from Arc 5 and before that are pretty much nerfed to a serious degree. Some character decks can still survive. Those that don't rely very heavily on the extra deck still survive, like Yuki, Kaiba, Jaden to an extent, and certain other ones that don't heavily rely on the extra deck, and their main deck still runs without it, and the extra deck is really more of just that, like an extra possibility to go for and whatnot. But decks like Yuma, Yuya, and Yusei, more specifically Yusei and Yuya, are very nerfed. So just to give you guys an example why Yusei is extremely nerfed now, let's say you synchro summon for Stardust Dragon turn 1, right? Let's say you have the hand perfect in your hand to summon Shooting Star Dragon in one turn. Now you can't do that. You can only synchro summon for Stardust, summon it on your extra monster zone. The other extra monster zone is your opponent. So you pick whichever one you want, and then whichever one you don't choose, that one belongs to your opponent. That's part of the rule set. So now that you summon Stardust Dragon onto the field, you need to summon formula, right? So let's say you summon your two level 1s, your tuner, your level 1 tuner, your level 1 non-tuner. You're about to synchro summon. You can't do that. Why? Because you have one extra monster zone and you already used it for Stardust. So now, in order to use that to summon Formula Synchron onto the field, you need to remove Stardust Dragon from the field somehow to summon it on that new zone, and then bring back Stardust onto the field somehow, and then do it that way. There are ways to do it, but it takes long. So you could summon Stardust, let it die on purpose, and then use that new zone to summon Formula, then activate a Trapper spell to bring Stardust back onto the field. Then you go for Shooting Star Dragon. But it's just, you have to add a lot of extra cards and use a lot of resources in order to get those big plays. So Yusei can't do that. And a perfect other example is Junk Speeder, which is a new synchro that Yusei just got recently, and you guys saw that being showcased in the last duel with Jaden versus Yusei, Junk Turbo versus E-Hero Turbo, whatever. You guys just saw it being used. And what that does is when in synchro summon, you can spam the field with a bunch of synchron monsters from your deck to mass synchro summon. So you can synchro summon 3 times per duel, like you guys saw in the last duel. Well, now you can't. Now you can only summon Junk Speeder, and then if you want to summon another synchro monster, you have to use Junk Speeder as the material to get rid of it on the field to summon a new one. So it's not good. It's just not ideal. It's just bad, honestly. So Yusei is extremely nerfed. The same goes for Yuya with the pendulum summoning. As you guys know, you can pendulum summon monsters from your hand that are within the scales and from the extra deck. So pendulum monsters, when they're destroyed on the field, they go face up in the extra deck. So they're being special summoned from the extra deck when they're pendulum summoned again. So that also counts for them also. So since they're coming from the extra deck, that rule works on them too. That restriction, works on them too. So you have 1 extra monster zone. You can only pendulum summon one extra deck pendulum monster onto that extra monster zone, and none of your other pendulum monsters you can summon on your other main monster zones like you used to. None of them. So not only were pendulum summons extremely nerfed because their pendulum zones went to the back row, but now they also have to deal with this whole nonsense of Master Rule 4 and 1 extra deck monster per turn, which is severely nerfs pendulum summoning, which, I mean, for some people might be great because it's extremely nerfed, but for the sake of our duels, it sucks because now Yuya can't go full power. And as you guys know, Yuya's deck does all the summoning mechanics, Fusion, Synchro, Exi, so we can't do Starving Venom, Clear Wing, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, and Dark Rebellion all in 1 turn. We can't, because there's only 1 extra monster zone. We have to choose one of them. And then we can maybe evolve Odd Eyes, into Odd Eyes Rebellion or whatever, but we can only do 1 at a time. So it's going to make the duels very difficult to script. It's going to make it very boring, too, because essentially the Vrain's characters will go off as much as they want, but the other characters can't. Because the way Link monsters work is they all have Link arrows that point in different directions. So if you have Link arrows pointing down to your main monster zones, basically those new zones that those arrows point to become extra monster zones. So you have a Link monster that has a Link rating of 3 and all of their arrows point down. Wait, down. Yeah, point. Ow, that hurts my hand right there. Points down, right? So these 3 monster zones here, they all become extra monster zones. So now you can Exi summon, Fusion summon, or whatever, 3 monsters from your extra deck. So that's good. But that only works if you have a Link monster, and if you have a Link monster with a high enough rating that all points down, and the most you'll ever get is 3, right? Because there's only 3 arrows, 1 down, bottom left, bottom right. There's 6 or 8, I think, in total, but only 3 of them point down to your field. So you'll only ever get 3 at a time if you have a Link 3. But obviously the older character decks don't have Link monsters because they're not from the Link era. Now lately Konami has been creating new Link monsters for older archetypes so that they can survive in the competitive era. So those monsters for these scripts we may or will use for these duels because we might have to in order to compete. But to be honest, I've looked at a lot of them, and a lot of them don't really help us out that much. Like, they have great effects that help out the archetype do what it needs to do, but they don't. It's usually like a Link 1 or a Link 2. So the most you'll ever get is one extra monster zone, which is no different than it was before. At that point, you might as well not have even Pendulum summoned, not even Link summoned at all, and just use your regular extra monster zone. Or those that just happen to have 2 Link arrows pointing down. Great, now you have 2. You could do a little more. That's a little better. Link 2 is better, but not every character deck got a Link monster. Yes, some did. Yuzu did. Sawatari just got one too. I know Yugi has a bunch that he got because he's the main character. He gets a bunch. Kaito got one. Who else? Reiji got one. Just a few of the other archetypes did get one. I know Heroes got a bunch, although some of them feel more like manga effects, but we'll get into that another time. But essentially, all those decks are kind of screwed. They only have 1 Link monster to go for, most of them. And it's not going to give them that much of an extra advantage. So they're all just nerfed, and you kind of have to deal with it. So you're fighting against a Vrain's character like Yusaku. He has no limitations, right? His whole extra deck is Link monsters. So he summons, like, say, a Link 3, like Decode Talker. Now he has, I think he points bottom left, bottom right. So now you have 2 other monster zones, right? You swarm the field with more monsters, summon another link monster, summon another link monster, link up, go this, that. So that's how his deck works. It's just massive link summoning up all the way. There's no limitations because his whole extra deck is links. And the other characters just don't have links or only have 1 link. That doesn't really help that much. The link effect usually helps out the archetype pretty well, but in terms of giving you more zones so you could swarm the field with extra deck monsters, it's not only going to give you 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But even then, that's not a lot. So that's kind of like the big issue with that. I'm trying to think also. Yuma is not as affected by this because he's also affected by it because he can swarm the field with a bunch of like at least 2 or maybe sometimes 3 rank 4 XCs on the field at once. But because of the new support that Yuma got with Utopia double or Hope double and just other stuff that he got, he can pass by with very little. And on top of that, Yuma has a lot of rank ups. So if you summon Utopia on your extra monster zone, you could just rank him up to summon your Hope Bravery, because now technically Utopia is not on the field and a new monster is being summoned in the extra monster zone. So in terms of Yuma and his ranking up, that can still happen. So Yuma's not as affected by it because of how Zale worked, and a lot of the all the rank up mechanic makes it so that monster evolves and it transforms into a new monster. So you can still go for victory beyond the hope and all that stuff. You can't swarm the field like Astral did in the final duel where he summoned all 5 hopes at once. So that we can't do at all because we can only do 1 at a time. So he's still nerfed. It's not as bad as the others like Yusei and Yuya, but he's still nerfed. So in my opinion, it's still bad. He could still survive without mass XC summoning and whatnot, but it still nerfs him extremely much because if he wasn't nerfed, he could stand a chance against like Yusaku and his mass link summoning. But without it, he could possibly still stand a chance because he is kind of, in a sense, a power duelist, right? He doubles his attack a lot and just rams in and goes for a one-shot. But Yusaku has so much defense. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, Master Rule 4 kind of screws up all these other mechanics, fusion, synchro, XCs. So unless your deck doesn't rely very heavily on summoning from the extra deck, then you'll be fine. It won't affect you as much. Yugi, Kaiba, Kaito, Shark maybe a little bit, but not much because he also kind of mass XC summons sort of. But Shark isn't as affected, but still affected. And just so many characters are just nerfed. So that's going to create a huge problem scripting duels in the future. So I'm just letting you guys know that there will be problems scripting. We will have duels with ranged characters and other older characters, and they're all going to be playing under Master Rule 4 because you have to, because you're using a ranged character, you're using links, you have to do it. But just know, we're going to try our best to make our duels as legendary as possible. We want to create interesting matchups. We had a Revolver versus Yusei Fudo matchup. We're not going to be able to do that anymore. My friend Robbie, who plays as Yusei on the channel, he has Yusei's deck. He also has Revolver's deck. He was looking at it and he's like, there's no way this duel's going to work. Yusei's not going to be able to stand a chance against Revolver because Yusei is not allowed to mass synchro summon in order to go for his big monsters to fight against Revolver. He has to go one at a time, very, very slowly. And obviously Revolver can just go off and summoning his Borolo Dragon or Savage Dragon or whatever, like all that stuff. He could just go off and they all have very powerful effects, and Yusei can't keep up with Revolver. Not because Yusei's deck is bad, but because of Master Rule 4, you're just not allowed to summon Stardust Dragon, Formula Synchron, go for Shooting Star in that one turn, and then possibly, go for 5 attacks and wipe out Revolver's field. You can't do any of that. So we can't do that duel we wanted to do for that. So there are certain matchups that we might not be able to do. So maybe you want to see Yuya versus Soulburner or something like that. That's just an example. We probably might not be able to do that because Yuya's going to be so extremely nerfed that it's going to be a one-sided duel, and that's the problem. It's going to be a one-sided duel. Not every character has a lot of defensive cards. So ideally, if you do protect yourself enough, you can survive long enough to eventually load up your graveyard with a bunch of your synchros or whatever, bring them back onto the field in the main monster zone, and then synchro up or whatever. You could do that, but not everyone has those resources. In fact, most characters don't have those resources. Not a lot of characters have a lot of reborn cards. Not a lot of characters have a lot of ways to remove your monster from the extra monster zone just to bring it back, like Jack does with his dimension switch, or Yuya with his dimension gate or whatever. Like, not everyone has those resources, so it's just going to create a huge problem for scripts. So we're going to try our best to come up with cool, interesting matchups for the Reigns characters, but to be honest, it's going to be very difficult, and there might not be that many options. Like, we'll do the best we can. We'll try to make every duel as legendary as possible. We'll only settle for the best because that's what we do on the channel. But there are certain matchups that you might not see. So if you're disappointed that you didn't see a certain matchup, that's probably why. Because Master Rule 4 is a huge problem for all the other decks. All of them. Except for the Reigns decks. So that's where that's at. Also, from now on in our videos, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be putting a little note. Well, basically in the title, at the very end of the title, I'm going to be in parentheses, put down a little marker that says MR3, MR4, MR2. So that stands for Master Rule 1, 2, well, Master Rule 2, 3, and 4. So if I'm playing in Master Rule 4, so let's say I do Yusaku versus one of the other older characters. At the end of that title description, it's going to say MR4, meaning we're playing under Master Rule 4 rules. And then all other duels prior to Reigns, so let's say I do Kaito versus Jade and Yuki or something like that. I'm going to put MR3 for Master Rule 3, so you guys know which rule sets we're playing by in that sense. And then for Arc 5 characters, because the rules changed during Arc 5, that's MR3, which means, both players can control a field spell at one time, and the player who goes first can't draw on the first turn, and then the pendulum zones. You already know that. So depending on which characters we're facing off against each other, we'll be using a different rule set for that. So characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeo and before, they do get to draw on their first turn because of that. But if Yuma is facing against Yuya, then we have to play by Master Rule 3 rules. So you can't draw on your first turn because you're facing a character from a future generation. Therefore, you have to play by their rules, their updated rules and whatnot. So that's kind of how it would work. I think that pretty much covers it. I think I mentioned everything. I probably will forget something and then later think about it, be like, oh man, I should have brought that up too. But so that's the huge problem that link summoning creates, more specifically Master Rule 4. It's going to be hard to come up with duels. We're going to do our very best to come up with Reigns duels. We're going to try our best to do Reigns duels with older characters, obviously, because I know you guys want to see that. That's the kind of the charm of our channel. We get to see how these characters from different shows, interact with each other. More importantly, how they would face off in a duel, which is the whole point. But some duels we might have to do Reigns versus Reigns, and then we can really see those Reigns characters go off. So, we might do some matchups like that if we want to see the Reigns characters go off more and just go freely or whatever. I don't know. The scripts are just going to be difficult to write. And with the whole, you have to be careful of where you summon the monsters, which zones you've summoned them in, because of the link arrows, they gain effects, when you have certain monsters co-linked and all that stuff. You got to be more specific and careful of where you place certain monsters and stuff. So writing scripts is just going to be more difficult. That's just how it is. We got to be more careful. We have to pay attention to every little detail, even more so than before, because now we got to be very specific. It's just complicated, but we're doing good so far. But we saw a huge problem with the matchup with Revolver versus Yusei, and I just felt like I had to do a video to address that problem, as well as all other future problems that we might have with these Reigns characters and Master Rule 4. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Write down in the comment section below. I hope you guys understand. I hope you guys aren't too mad about it. We can make duels. Don't get me wrong. We could make duels with them, but would they be legendary? Would they be what our channel is about? Yeah, we could make halfway mediocre duels, or we can make duels that are end underwhelmingly, because obviously the Reigns characters are going to have a huge overwhelming advantage against every other character because they have links. They have no restrictions. They're free. They have no chains locking them down like the other mechanics. So that's kind of what it is. It just is what it is. So We could do duels that are just okay, but we have a record on our channel. We have a standard on our channel with our duels. All our duels are legendary. They're epic. They're back and forth, or they're just really intense. We like to give that feeling of the show. If we have these duels where every Vayne's character is just a one-sided victory against Yuma or Judai or Yusei, it's gonna be boring, and then that's gonna bring our channel down, and we don't want that. So we'll do our very best. So I just hope you guys understand. It's the whole point. Just try to be understanding. I know you guys will. Just understand that Master Rule 4 sucks, and it's going to affect how we do duels in the future with those Vayne's characters, and only with those Vayne's characters. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for everything. Write down in the comments section below what you guys think, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Gotcha.